Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of GenAI Done Right. And today we have Isha from Tempo. Isha, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Great. So I know Isha through the TechStar program, New York City, that just concluded. Congratulations on the demo day. Dying to hear more about the progress of Tempo and your new company. Maybe we can start with a quick background. Like, how can you share a little bit about your journey before becoming a founder?
Yeah. So in terms of my background, before this, I was at Microsoft on the product and engineering side. I specifically focused around video. So I was part of the video team, and I had great exposure across the video stack from silicon chip to OS to the app layer, and then as well as horizontally. So across various different devices like HoloLens, Xbox, Windows, and even devices like body-worn cameras. And so primarily was part of the video team. And
Do you work on Microsoft Teams as well, or that's
we were also surfacing to Microsoft Teams as well for its video capabilities. So yeah.
Awesome. And when did you start Tempo? So we're gonna dig into what Tempo does a little bit, but maybe you can also give us a quick elevator pitch to kick us off.
Yeah, so started Temple about 7-ish months ago. Basically, Temple, what we do is we automate compliance and visual inspections for operations teams in supply chain and logistics using vision-based AI agents.
And before we dive into that, congratulations on completing Techstars. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience and what do you think is the biggest thing you learned in that process?
Yeah, no, Techstars was amazing. I think the biggest value that Techstars had for us specifically was its great vast mentor network. So that's how we were introduced, along with, it was a great breeding ground for not only meeting potential investors, mentors, but also customers as well. And so that's how we got connected to our initial set of customers.
And would you say they also help you kind of shape the idea and figuring out who the ICP is a little bit on the before even talking about customers and investors, like shaping the startup itself?
Yeah, so I think when we entered Techstars, we had a great idea on, from product development side, we already had a product, and then also from a general thesis on what we wanted to build. But they were instrumental in helping us refine our go-to-market strategy and commercialize, some of the enterprise sales processes that we wanted to really hone in on post Techstars.
Great, that's great. So let's talk a little bit about the computer vision technology, right? So did you choose to be in that field at Microsoft, or it sort of happened to you? And then after several years, right, what made you choose to leave a comfortable engineering job at a large company to work on computer vision startup?
Yeah, so, my first exposure to generative AI was very early in my career at Microsoft back in 2019. And so one of the projects that I was specifically working on is, provenance of media and how do you prevent deepfakes and media disinformation. And so at the time, we were exposed to things like, deepfakes of presidential candidates. And you can largely see that these were faked and this was AI generated. But my insight at the time was, the cost of creation for these high quality deepfakes was going to get to zero, and content authentication would be a major factor. And so being exposed to that really early on, and then seeing different aspects of computer vision techniques being utilized in entertainment and media spaces is how we started thinking about how can this be applied in other industries as well. And so my co-founder and my co-founder is actually also my husband. He was at Amazon Alexa at the time. And so his insights were very much on how do you apply Alexa to physical spaces like retail and shopping centers. And so we had this thesis around real world observability and how do you leverage, these data sources like video and images, and how can you create better real world observability platform for these industrial use cases.
So you touched on a lot of latest development here, right? Would you say that the sort of classic definition of computer vision, right, based on input a video, get insight out of it, versus generating net new video? Like how related are the technology between those two use cases?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're slightly different. I would say, the way that we've positioned ourselves is around video understanding. And specifically, there have been, rapid progress in computer vision around video reasoning and understanding. So one is you have the rise of zero shot and open vocab capabilities now. And then two, you're treating video itself as a native modality rather than a sequence of visions. And so sequence of images, actually. I think those are the two latest, trends that we saw in computer vision. And so that's how we decided to capitalize on that. And what that would enhance is then, the next phase of generative video capabilities. So we're collecting all of this interesting information from our real world observability thesis, but then afterwards, how can you end up building something that simulates and models what our world is right now, if that makes sense?
And kind of going down, double click on this a little bit, right? What are some use cases for like a layperson audience like myself? What are some use cases that were very hard or impossible to do 2 years ago that are possible now? And what are something that is very hard to do today, but you predict that in a couple of years it will become more?
Yeah, so what was very difficult before, so I'll take the inspections use case that we're focused in on at Temple. So in a lot of these industrial settings, you have people going in and conducting inspections of various assets. So whether it's trucks, cars, or even different manufactured items. And so with these inspections, there have been traditionally computer vision based applications that would try to conduct these inspections themselves. But the problem there, the limitations before was that it was very scoped. So based on how much training that you've done with the specific object, so object detection. And so, the progress now, what you can do is that you have these flexible zero shot models where you can then assess these inspections in a pretty out of the box fashion. So that's what we're trying to do here is that, whatever the use case it might be, or specifically whatever the asset it might be, we're able to do those inspections in an automated fashion.
That's a good segue into Tempo. So I know, because I kind of I was part of the Techstar journey for a little bit. Like I know you iterated on a couple of different use cases for the core technology. And what are some of those early ideas, and how did you end up deciding focusing on a industrial use case in the compliance sense?
Yeah. So, the biggest thing when you think about videos is that, what is the highest amount of video capture and what is the workflow around video review? And so one of the early ideas that we actually looked into is police body worn camera review. And so that was an interesting era, I guess, for us because, we would go and try to sell to these police departments, but the go-to-market strategy wasn't just quite there yet. Also, the use case wasn't as prevalent from a workflow perspective. And so
it's more
that's
like
why,
one-off, right? I need to do this now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so what we wanted to make sure is, what is the specific workflow that's repeatable, not only at a one-off basis, but, on a daily basis. And then two, what is the highest exposure of cameras? And so logistics and supply chain was a great vertical for us to start with because not only you have these wide array of partner networks where there's a lot of human involvement, but also the fact that there's so many different compliance checks involved that traditionally would have humans to go do these inspections. And so that ends up being a bottleneck on getting to the next step of the supply chain process.
Yeah. So maybe give me a concrete example, right? What is the inspection that needs to be done? What are they looking for? How were they doing it before? And now, how is your solution going to get much better?
Yeah. So I can give an example of one of the customers that we're looking at, which is an autonomous trucking company. And so they have a fleet of trucks that are on the road, and based on a certain regulation from the Department of Transportation, they have an enhanced inspection rule where they would need to have each of these trucks come in every day for 40 minutes being serviced by some operations technician to conduct a thorough inspection. And so when you think about this, type of company, their selling point to their customers is uptime. So how long can they be on the road? How long can the trucks be on the road for the maximum amount of time? And so having increased amount of inspection time is a huge factor on their potential revenue. And so that is specifically from how they do the inspection. They would go around each truck, look at different factors of the truck, like tire wear, whether their brake system is okay. And then they would use their own phone camera to take a video. And then they would write a report. And then they would submit that report and make sure that
So
the
you
truck
are
is good to go.
processing the video that they submitted, or you're kind of writing report for them based on the video? Where does your solution fit in?
It's actually both. So basically what we would do is we process all of their video footage. We actually have a feature called a template. So basically each customer would generate a template based on their inspection criteria. It's as easy as a Google form. And then we would run that template across all of their videos, and it would generate a report indicating whether each inspection passes or not. And we incorporated a human in the loop feedback system within our product. So each technician can say, whether the results are good to go or not. And so over time, this ends up being a fine-tuned workflow that can automate the rest of their inspections that they do.
Got it. So like you're almost like chipping away the pieces that human do so that the human can be more effective, right? Anything that the video
Exactly.
sort of can tell you would have done.
Exactly.
Got it. And what are they doing today? They're human reviewing those videos?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's largely human review today, and it's the case for a lot of the companies that we've been talking to. There are two types of solutions that we see. One is, a report management solution. So it's still human review, but it's captured into some type of software system. But, obviously there's a data lag between what is being reported and what's being missed. And so what we're trying to do is that, we cut the human in the middle in terms of reporting. And so you have the most accurate representation of what's happening in the real world.
What is the hardest sort of technological challenge that you guys have to solve in order to do what you just said?
Yeah, I think we make it a point to ensure high accuracy and make sure that we have better than human accuracy. And so our special secret sauce has been to leverage the best in class computer vision techniques for the type of inspection that is being done. And so what we end up having is a set of building blocks that can be constructed into various different workflows based on the inspection that's being done. So I would say that that's been the toughest technological challenge.
And the building blocks are powered by kind of cutting edge models and like different libraries that
Yeah.
Awesome. Switching gear a little bit to go to market, right? Like sounds like there's multiple industrial use cases for different kind of companies in the industrial space. What are the sweet spot ICP, and how have you seen how has the go to market been? Do you have any challenges there?
Yeah. So from go to market, what we try to hone in on is leveraging partner networks. During my time at Microsoft, I would see time and time again that the company would grow due to its partners. So having a similar, model for Temple, partnering ourselves with industry standard setting leaders that are usually late stage startups, that's been our sweet spot. So basically what they've been doing pre-IPO is doing things that don't scale. And so largely it's been throwing humans to the problem rather than having sophisticated technical solutions. And so that's where we come in. And I think compliance has been a great wedge into the space as well. And, there's been a growing market of autonomous vehicles and transportation companies. And so they're getting to the point where these are new technologies and innovations that are impacting the world. And therefore, there are new regulations that are being put in place. And so that's how we see ourselves as a great platform to ensure that compliance is being met on that front.
Great. And two more questions from me. One is like, okay, like when people think about Gen AI and kind of latest, frankly, like video X AI, right? We think about industries like entertainment and Gen AI in general, probably financial service, customer service. Industrials is not kind of the top vertical when people think about. So what are some of your tips or advice for industrial companies looking at adopting Gen AI and also reinventing themselves?
Yeah, I think it's kind of understanding what are the inefficient workflows that are truly in place within the company. I think a lot of AI tools are coming up and obviously it's growing a lot of popularity, but I think the ones that win are the ones who can nail a workflow, and that is a unique problem and need for these companies. I think another point is that design is going to be everything. And you usually don't think about that, especially,
Design
traditionally
of what?
of the product itself. So enterprise SaaS before used to not be as design heavy, but now with, all of these AI tools and code creation is getting much easier. I think design has become a important factor in terms of retention and making a sticky product. So, coupling with a workflow and design, I think that's the best way to think about adopting AI that is actually useful to their use case.
Awesome. And last question from me: how have your experience been starting a company with your husband? I think it's I've seen siblings, I've seen couples. I'm sure it feels a little bit different than doing it this way.
Yeah, no, I think it's been great. We have very complementary skill sets, and we knew even before we got married, we wanted to work together. Our early dates used to be talking about, different startup ideas and what new technologies we want to see in the world. And so, after we got married, we just started thinking about what's next, and what do we want to build. And it just seemed like a great time to do so. Yeah, it's been amazing journey so far.
It's great to hear. I wish that's the dynamic I have with my wife. We talk a lot about startup ideas, but when it gets to, hey, maybe we should do this together, we're like, that is great. Thank you for sharing with your insight. Congratulations on the success to date with Temple, and looking forward to how you guys revolutionize this industry.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.